Simple patterns are great when you're doing Sashiko. There are lots of tools to draw different patterns, but one thing that you can do is use the fabric. I'm going to draw some lines between the dots and then I'm going to do some Sashiko on them. The dots will guide me in my line drawing. It'll be really simple. I don't have to do a lot of measuring. You may even be able to do this actually without drawing any lines when you've done a little bit of Sashiko. I probably wouldn't normally draw lines on this, but for this purpose I'm going to. So you need a good ruler. These nice metal ones are good for drawing Sashiko patterns, and all I'm going to do is place this along the center of each of the dots, and I'm just doing this with just by looking at it, just gauging with my eyes, not measuring in any way. And I'm just going to draw, get some lead out. I'm just going to draw a line straight down it and go along through my fabric. Now I'm just going to the edges of the fabric. I'm not actually going to do the Sashiko all over, and that doesn't make any difference because I can just do the sewing where I want to do the sewing. As I'm working on this fabric, these lines will just fade away. So I'm going to turn this now and draw lines the other way. This is my ceramic pencil that I really like for drawing these lines. I like it because it does fade off, but anything that you choose to do it with, it's fine. You're going to find your favorite marking tool and go ahead and use that for your projects. Most things would show up on this color because it's red. So now I've done the diagonals, and now I'm going to do some straight lines. So I'm going to go along this one. And then when I've drawn all of those, I'll turn it again and go down these straight lines. And that is basically all you've got to do for this pattern. And if you didn't draw these lines, you just follow the dots, using the center of them really as your guide to do that. So I don't need to complete all that there. I've actually, on the other side, already drawn these lines on here, ready to sew. One warning is that if you're going to make this into something, be very careful that you don't go out with your Sashiko into areas that you would later cut off, because you can't cut through the Sashiko, it'll just come unraveled. I'm just going to work on this half of the fabric at the moment. I've got my thread with a knot already in it, and I have a Sashiko thimble in here. So let me put that on, and I'm going to start sewing. And I'm basically going to do an area in the center of this. Let's start about there. I'm going to just go above that first dot on my line, and I'm always going to do the same number of stitches, and it's going to just be one stitch on each side of the black dot every time I do it. So, and the line is just a guide. I'm just doing my usual method, which is just loading the fabric on the eye of the needle is in my thimble there. Try and keep my stitches as even as I can. When it's finished, these are kind of going to look a little bit like little flowers. If they're not all exactly identical, it'll still be pretty good. Okay, so I think I'm gonna, you'll judge how big you want to make this centerpiece. I think I'll just stop there. Usually I would decide ahead of time what I was going to make with this, and then I would know the point I was going to stitch to. And I'd probably draw like a box on the outside of the Sashiko, and I may go ahead and look at this and decide on something and mark out what I'm going to do and where I'm going to do my stitching. Follow the same rules as always, so I'm going to do all the rows in one direction. So I'm going to carry my thread over here. Leave this just a little bit loose on the back. And you can see this is just really a simple pattern, and at the end it will look pretty. And I think you'll be pleased with this one if you try it out. And dots isn't the only fabric you can do this on. You can get some squared and checked fabric and see what kind of a pattern you can make on that. And of course this isn't the only pattern that you can do on dots. This is just the one that I'm making today. So I'll pull that through. Well, I guess I needed to push it a bit more with my thimble because it doesn't want to come through. There we go. And then, as always, the tension control. Okay, so I'm going to carry on doing that. I'm going to go backwards and forwards all along those rows in the section that I want to do this on, and then we'll come back and do some more. I'm now starting to do the diagonal in the other direction. I've already started going along here, and I keep on going. One thing that I was thinking to tell you is if I was going to make this into a bag or something small like that, I might put the batting on the back of this and sew through the batting at the same time. Sometimes I do that. You don't have to. You could try it and see if you like it. I like it because I like that stable kind of feeling that you have if you're sewing through 2 layers or if you've got some batting on the back. And batting needs to be held in place anyway, so it's a good way, you know, you're doing 2 things at the same time. You're sewing through it and holding the batting in position for the future. So, okay. So I'm just going to keep going backwards and forwards in my rows. And I don't know whether you can see this on camera, but I have decided to square off a little section at the area that I'm going to work in. I decided I just want to put it on this portion. Carry on sewing and I'll show you how it gets on. I've done all the diagonal rows. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the straight rows up and down. I've started going along here on the bottom. This row is a little bit different because there's a much bigger space going between the dots. So I'm still doing 1 stitch at each side of the black spot or dot, but in between there's a much bigger red section before I do the next white stitch. And you'll just keep that up as you're sewing along. So if this is the kind of simple Sashiko patterns you're looking for, please go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to make more videos. I'm specifically making these videos for people just starting out on Sashiko and looking for ideas. And I love some of these simple patterns as well. Sashiko itself is just, it's really quite addictive. Once I get started, quite often I can't stop. I definitely lose weight doing Sashiko because I'm not always going and looking for something to nibble because my hands are otherwise occupied. So, all right. So I'll finish off there and then I'll come back and show you the progress in a little while. That section's done now. Just going to have to do one more set of stitching and that's going to go in that direction. I think you can see how it's coming along. If when I did these rows here where the space in between is wider, I could actually have done another stitch in there and made that a 3-stitch row. That would have made it a little bit different pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and start these last stitches here. I was just thinking, I can't believe that we've got through this whole video without my dogs barking. I hear them rattling on the door sometimes, but they haven't actually been doing any barking today, which is good. I actually have 3 dogs. I have Mariko, who this channel is named for. She's a little corgi and she's very cute. She's only 2. And then I have an older rescue dog, Callie. She's 13 and leader of the pack, and she's a big girl. She's a really good guard dog. Oh, I spoke too soon. Now they're barking. She heard a noise outside, and so yeah, she's a good guard dog. And then I have a third dog, Sabby, who's a kind of a medium in between size of them. Because Mariko now thinks that she should be the leader of the pack and is trying to take over that role, but it's not going to work. She's too small. She's just short stuff. All right, and we finish this section. I'm just doing the last row here, and then we can have a look what the finished pattern looks like. So I'm just sew this last little bit. You know, there's something just really soothing about sewing, putting the needle through the thread. It's very relaxing, something I just really enjoy doing, hand sewing. Well, I like any kind of sewing really, so let me turn that through. I'm going to finish it off with a knot at the back. All the way through I've been remembering to do my tension control, smoothing my stitches so that I won't have any problems with it gathering up. That puckering is a problem that a lot of new people to Sashiko seem to have. So you have to continuously try to remember to smooth your stitches, or just give your fabric that little tug just to make sure that that doesn't happen, and you'll just get a better result that way. Okay, I'm going to clip that up and we'll turn that over. And I think that's a cute little pattern. Looks like little flowers. And you know, I look at that and is my stitching perfect and all even? And no, in this case it isn't, although I do usually try to be pretty even. But on these little flowers, they look cute anyway. That's the finished little pattern. Hope you give it a try. This is just a little sample to show you the difference in these two. The top one is the one that we've been making, and this one here on the bottom, on this one I did sew the 3 stitches along this row, so it's just in the horizontal rows there are 3 stitches between the flower instead of the 2. I didn't do it on the downward, but you can see it does make a little bit of difference to the pattern, and it's just another option.